That's important, right? That's the whole point of this is how can we make space for others? Yeah. And even if it's one person, we fall so much into this idea that we have to do it on such a huge scale, right? To be successful, you gotta have 1 million followers. You gotta do it on such a big scale, but honestly, impact to me is changing one person's life. Yep. And if you can do that, then you don't know what that person can do, right? You might be raising the next leader of 1,000, of 1,000,000, right? And so if you can really pour into one person, take that long approach, that's how the world gets changed, right? But most of us is like, well, it's not worth my time because I don't have anyone I can relate to. I don't know where my impact lies, and I'm not going to take the time to even figure that out because of this fear or this idea that, like, why me, right? And they're not gonna listen to me. Exactly. But someone can resonate, and that's why we hope to capture here.
What you drink, yeah. Sapphire Bombay, only what you think, yeah. Looks like we'll be tied up for some weeks, yeah. Lockdown, can't see no end. Top down, but we rollin', we all in. What you drink, yeah. Sapphire Bombay, only what you think, yeah. Looks like we'll be tied up for some weeks, yeah. Lockdown, can't see no end. Top down, but we pouring, we all in. I'm taking it slow, ain't no time for no hold up. I thrust in it slow, then the wood beat that up. Bust a cloud like a bomb, yeah, I'm a performer. Isolate me in the woods, you distance me like a Rona.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Per My Last, the podcast. I am your co-host, Podcast Poppy, in full effect, Khalil Simmons, and I'm sitting next to this handsome young brother.
Oh my goodness, that's why we have you on this show. It's for this.
Talk to him, brother. Talk to him.
Yoshi Haney at Yoshi Haney on Instagram. Find me. Encourage you to in collaboration with the nonprofit. But we're here to motivate, encourage, and inspire, right? Through our voices.
I think so.
And I'm happy to share the second episode.
We're in. Today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart personally. We're calling this "How Are You?" ... I'm good. So we're going to talk about mental health in the Black community. I know it's a very sensitive topic, but I definitely want to get into it because it's something that needs to be discussed. And we got two special ladies on today. I feel all warm and fuzzy inside. But no, I'm very excited for you all to see our guests today, and we're gonna turn it over to our two amazing young Black beautiful women.
Yes.
Tell the people a little bit about yourself. You know, who you are, you know, where you're from, why you're here today, and let's get to it.
So I'm Jayla. I'm from Chicago. I currently live in Atlanta. I'm working on my second master's in marriage and family therapy, so I'm currently a student therapist. That's super exciting. I also run a community service type of project where I basically look at the intersection of community service and mental wellness and serving the people who need to be served. So,
Amen.
That's me.
I need you.
Yeah, for sure.
Facts.
So I'm Mel. My handle is Mel from STL_ if you want to follow me on there. I'm a 200-hour certified yoga instructor and a co-founder of the Collective STL, which is a Black-owned, nonprofit, donation-based yoga studio in St. Louis.
So today we're going to be talking about mental health, right? Mental health in the workplace, mental health in the Black community especially. Like I said earlier, there's a stigma around it. It's a very sensitive topic. I don't know why, right? Because we all have had our own battles with mental health, and we all, you know, we handle it all different ways, right? And one of the purposes of this episode in particular, I want to, one, make it very comfortable to have these conversations. I feel like you all are very equipped to give that knowledge to the people. But two, seeing people, like, I have no problem even discussing my own battles with my own mental health and, you know, the pressures of making it out, being the one in your family that made it, or dealing with imposter syndrome at the job. It's so much shit that literally is not discussed that I know for a fact we all go through. So I definitely want to make sure that we can touch on as much as possible. But like I said, I think that we got the perfect people on today. Like, I'm super excited. So just out, thinking about mental health, right? Especially in our community, right? Where we're from. You from St. Louis, Melinda, Chicago. We definitely don't discuss mental health. Why do you all think, this is personal opinion, why do you all think that there's such a stigma around it in the Black community? Like, why are we so uncomfortable talking about what's going on in our noggins? Like,
well, I mean, before we even get into that, like, why don't we talk about it from our perspective, right? Like, being Black men and being men, there's a stigma already surrounding that, right?
Facts.
Like, you're supposed to be a certain way. You're
supposed to be strong at all times. I'm this 24/7, and that's exhausting.
And I mean, just, and with people looking up to us, our family, and with us having the access as well to get an education, so we're supposed to be in better places than the people who came before us were. And there's a lot of pressure behind that, right? But we don't speak on it enough. And so we really do want to break down, like, from your own experience, from our own experience, just being vulnerable and open and opening the door to these conversations, right? Like, so we're gonna get real practical. And that's why, of course, we have you. But, like, I think from my own standpoint, I think there's a lot of eyes watching, right? Like, there's a lot of people that see you in law school. I'm sure you can share in this. It's like there's a certain level of pressure that comes with. And yet alone, you want to be successful. And this pressure to be successful, and then being a male on top of that. When law school got hard, I had no problem sitting here and telling people, and I think there's value to being real, because once you know about yourself, you're able to diagnose what you need, and so I don't know. I know we'll get into really what you feel like you struggle with, but what is the stigma surrounding it?
Well, I think it's a lot of what you said, and also for Black people, just historically, we are always been focused on just survival, right? Like, we're always like especially in the spaces we're in, like, we just want to get there, and like we want to maintain at any means necessary, right? So we're always up against systemic racism. A lot of us are up against poverty and trauma from just generations. So we've always had to just kind of grin and bear it. We haven't always had that opportunity to take a break, right? So it's like we have been like programmed to go. And when you can't maintain, like he was saying, like, if you're not the big, strong man, if you're not this, like the sister who is like the strong woman, like trope, then it's like you failed, you know what I mean? Because we have just been programmed that we got to maintain by any means necessary. And I think that was necessary in a lot of different places we were at, right? Back then. But like now we're in a different space, and we can kind of start to have these conversations, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, so I agree with everything she's saying. I love this question because I feel like for me, we weren't taught to feel. Like, that's what it comes down to. Even when it's happiness, even when it's sadness, even when it's anxiety, any emotion you can think of, we're not taught to feel. We're not taught to sit with it, and we're not taught to articulate how we feel. So we're surviving. We're not thriving. We're happy to be in spaces. We just happy to be here, ma'am. You get what I'm saying? So we're not present, right? And so even when I think about what y'all said about, being in law school and not having any issue with saying, like, I'm not okay, or, you working and like, look, I need some help. I think we also have to account for our privileges, right? We're all college educated people.
Mizzou.
Literally. So like that within itself gives us the privilege to feel, right? Like, we've been in different environments that people haven't. So we know how to check in. We know how to articulate, I'm not okay. So.
And I think that's a very important point, because like the whole premise of what we're doing with this podcast is It's like access, right? And beyond just access to different versions of successes, which what we, is what we pride ourselves on. It's like experiences. There's no way you could have told me that I was going to be doing therapy and yoga. Like, I am not that guy. Like, I literally used to fight it. Like, no, I'm not going to therapy. I'm fine. I'm not crazy. I don't need therapy. Like, why would I want a therapist? Even my mother to this day, love you. You know what I'm saying? To this day, she still will say therapy is for white people. Right? And that whole stigma, like, from older generations, my grandmother, my great grandma, like, they still carry that with them. And it's like me, I'm trying to break that within my own family. Like, no, come to therapy with me. Let's talk about, any beef we got that's just been, swept under the rug. But and I'm doing, yoga and meditation, all these different things to get a better hold on my mental health, I think is very important, because like when I think about my children, we going to therapy together. We got beef, we talking about it. Like, I'm not gonna.
Nobody gonna see mad.
No, fuck that. I'm not gonna. I don't want to continue a lot of the same toxic traits that were passed down to me. And it's so funny because it didn't just start with our parents. Like, this is. You look back, generational, and it's literally passed down. And it's almost accepted as like, this is normal. This is what we go through, being black. And I'm like, why though? Right? Like, because I've had experiences. I've met people black men that I look up to, that do yoga, that meditate, that go to therapy. That's the experience that a lot of people that I've grown up with, that I've had around me, they don't have the access to those individuals. So I'm like, I think it's very important. Like, you need access to those experiences for you to open your mind up. And I guess a follow-up question to that is like, how do we give that access to our people, the everyday average Joe who still thinks how their parents used to think or their great-grandparents used to think? Like, how do we open that up? Because everybody's not going to go to college and get a degree and have and get access to those different experiences.
I think what's super interesting about all of us is that we come from black communities, right? And so I think just existing in this space and having these conversations is a bigger start than we give ourselves credit for. It may not always be about, here, I'm going to provide you with the therapist, but it's the fact that 2 black men and 2 black women are talking about mental health and its importance. And you have family members, I have family members, we all have family members that will probably never see the spaces that we do. But even to just see us navigating mental health, sometimes that's enough for us, right? So, yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think when we're looking to like bring different resources to our community, we have to understand, like, you got to meet people where they're at too. Like, don't tell people they got to go all the way down to this place on the north side where they don't have access, they don't got a car to get there. Like, you got to bring it to the people, right? You can't expect, people are like, oh, build it and they'll come. Like, but if you build it far away and, it's expensive and, there's nobody there who looks like them, they're not going to come. And I think like for me, when we were opening our studio in St. Louis, our yoga studio, we were very intentional about building in Old North St. Louis. Like, this is where Black people can reach. And like, we were very intentional about making it donation based. So you can come in and you can practice and like fellowship with other Black people, like for $5 or $0 if you don't have it. And I think we have to be very intentional about like, not just telling people like, oh, go seek a therapist, but like, okay, here are resources that are actually something that you can, access and grab onto. And I think with your work, like, she's working a lot in therapy with marginalized communities. Like, she's doing a lot of that, and it's really important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even with what you said, like, you brought up this point of meeting people where they are, right? And she brought up a good, like, physical aspect with infrastructure, but also just mentally and emotionally. If I've never seen a therapist and I think that crazy people go to therapy, don't tell me to go to therapy. You get what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where I kind of need to see that, my cousin over here is in therapy, and I know she's not crazy, or whatever that even means. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to just define what mental health is, right? And even when I be talking a lot. But even when you talk about how our parents, our grandparents, therapy is for white people, right? There's two sides of that coin. And I feel like what we don't acknowledge is that therapy was created for white people, by white people. And when our parents and our grandparents say stuff like that, they're saying what they know. They don't understand that mental health is also our birthright. You get what I'm saying? And us having this conversation is gonna keep the wheels turning and helping us redefine what it means, you know, to have mental health.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of deconstruction around like these ideas that has to occur before you can even bring people to the table. Like you really do have to redefine and like break down where they're coming from before, and not even, you know, in a hostile way, but like, okay, you say therapy's for white people, like where's that belief coming from? And like coming to them with true facts about, well, yeah, this is what people say, but this is the truth. That's the lawyer in me right there. Like, let me give you the Carfax. Okay?
Right. All right, let me see what you're really talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Is there any validity to what you're talking about? So I would say we're all in the space where I would consider us successful, right?
Well, I mean, before you even get into that, I think success is important to how you define success.
How you define it, exactly.
Because even that, I think, can cause like a lot of pressure on the mental. Because we define success by accolades. We define success by we need to be in a certain level of position. We need to be paid a certain amount. But for me, I've had to redefine success for my own mental health.
Yes.
Right.
Because for me, success is rooted in growth. Success is rooted in being better than I was yesterday. Success is rooted in something that I can attain so that I'm not sitting here and saying, okay, success is being an attorney. If I'm starting law school as a 1L, knowing that I got 3 years ahead of me, and that's success to me, then I'm not successful for 3 years.
Right.
I'm depressed at that point, right? And so
miserable.
I think that's important too, is like, how do we define success? And I think, you know, we want to get into real practical ways. And I love the fact that we have sort of the mental and the physical part of what mental health look like, that health aspect.
We already really like each other. We already really like each
Yeah,
other.
the yin and yang. Yin and yang.
So
for sure.
let's sort of get into like the practical, right? Like, how do we shift this narrative? How are we leaders in this space to not only redefine, recreate, so that it is sort of redefined to what we like and attainable?
Okay, so this is the question I also really like, because I feel like the wheels have been turning for years, right? And so I feel like this platform is perfect in discussing, you know, all of these things. So I'll start off by defining what I think success is. I think it's very interesting that you say growth. For me, it's authenticity. And I feel like that's that for me, because we all went to PWI, right? I've been navigating white spaces too damn much, right? With no reparations.
Hey, her.
With no reparations.
Biden,
Cut the check.
if you hear this, brother, you owe somebody.
Literally. So for me, right, in my first master's program, literally, I hated it so much. Yeah, number one.
John, number two.
Number one.
Oh my God. It's a whole lot of being
It's a whole lot of being But navigating that space was way more difficult than getting that degree, and that should never be the case. And so I promised myself when I went to Mercer, every day I'm waking up as Jayla. I'm going to class as Jayla, I'm learning as Jayla, and that's that, right? I'm not here to make space for you, because y'all don't make space for me. So with that being said, I'm a very outgoing person. I always got something to say. Like Zoom class, when I unmute the mic, everybody like this. Here she comes. Because literally, that is me. I learned about all these white people and all these white therapy modalities. It's important for me to also articulate why this don't work for the people that I want to work with, right? So I'm the person that's always advocating. And so it's important for me to give myself space to do that. Instead of like, oh, I don't want to seem aggressive, or oh, I don't want to seem like I'm taking up too much space. I pay to be here.
Look, and you know the master's degrees is taxing these
Expensive.
days.
And the thing about it is these spaces were created for y'all. They weren't created for me. So I feel like success every day is waking up and being Jayla, whatever that means. If that means I'm sad and I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk to y'all. You get what I'm saying? Like that's what I consider success to be.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important because I do think sometimes we are asked so much to like sacrifice our mental health to make other people comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that is something like I'm still to this day like deep, like even outside of white institutions, like with my mama, with my sister, like with my family, look, you can't cross these certain boundaries, yes. Right? And like this, cause I've learned myself and I know right here, you really walking the line, like you teetering with me, you know what I mean? So I think authenticity and knowing yourself is so important. And I think for me, like, when I think about success, like I think about like what is actually sustainable for me, because sometimes we get into these positions and we have had to strip ourselves of everything that makes us our authentic selves and like give up so much. And it's like we get there, we can't sustain it because it was never sustainable. We've sacrificed so much to be here and given so much of ourselves, which of course in different areas we do have to, you know, give up some of ourselves, but you shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to take everything away from yourself. And if you do, maybe that's not the space for you. And being able to see a space and be like, okay, yeah, I could get here, but would I be happy here? Would I feel fulfilled here? Would I be, so for me, I guess success is personal fulfillment. And I think also, honestly, authenticity, I'm over here copping her word, like, but it's good. Like,
no, that's super real. Like y'all both just touched on some really great points. Like I really honestly want to kind of circle back a little bit to what you said, Melinda, with just boundaries. Right. Sure. And you see this topic on Twitter, you know, Black Twitter loves giving some juicy content, but like you hear about like on one side of the spectrum, you have people who are like, don't be an asshole and just cut people off, right? You need people in your life. Then you have the other people who are like, I'm protecting my peace. I love protecting my peace. Snip, snip, ho. So when we think about boundaries, like how do you like healthily set boundaries with people where it's at a point where like you can protect your own peace, but also at the same time you're like, I'm not just trying to cut any and everybody off because we had a disagreement, you know, a little point of conflict.
I got something to say, but I know sis has something to say on this too.
I'm gonna say because I'm battling that myself, and I really would love some. Give me some deets, you know. Give me some.
Okay, so on the note of Black Twitter, like I had this kind of little situation, and at one point they told me like straight to my face, they were like, I'm trying to teach you how to love me best so we can like be in harmony, and that really stood out to me. Like I'm not trying to cut you off, I'm trying to teach you like how I like to be loved or how I like to be cared for it. And you know, I think when you approach it from a not you crossing my boundaries, like you got me, you know, messed up and everything, like, and come from it like, hey, like this is what happened, and I'm telling you like that is not the way like it works for me, right? And it's like, it is not anything where it's like, I don't want you around. It's like, I do want you here. I want you in my space. But the way you navigate my space right now is not giving what it's supposed to have gave.
It's giving toxicity.
You know what I'm saying? So I think when people are having those issues and they want to tell somebody like, you're making me uncomfortable in this way, or you're stepping on my toes, and they want to do it out of a place of love, because sometimes you have to check yourself, like, am I doing this out of a place of love and trying to establish boundaries, or am I trying to let somebody know about themselves?
Exactly.
And sometimes you need both, but like figure out what your intention is there. But if your intention is just to be like, hey, I want you around, but you're like I said before, you teetering on this line for me.
Energy's
like,
off.
Yeah, your energy's off. Like being like this, I'm just trying to show you how I like to be loved and cared for.
Yeah. I think you brought up a really good point. Is it about you, or is it about you showing the other person that I'm not something to be played with, right?
I'm not the one.
Here's my thing with the Twitter and the TikTok therapist. It really gets on my damn nerves, I'm gonna be honest. So when you brought up this line, right? Where it's like,
because I got a lot.
Cutting people off, but also protecting your peace.
Like, what does that even mean?
There's this word on the internet that we live in where it's either or.
Right?
My training, any therapist you speak to, reality is a both and, right? You don't have to choose between the two. So I think what's important, is it about you, or is it about you trying to show somebody you know, one, but also I feel like it takes a lot of self-exploration. Like if you feel like someone is crossing your boundaries, what just triggered you? right? Like, what does this remind you of? Is there a past injury that you haven't healed from yet? And this is reminding you of this, and you think it's gonna play out the same way. So I feel like people throw
My spirit.
people throw the word boundaries out there, but I feel like it's important. This is why therapy is important to also, you have to look at yourself. You have to look inward before you go navigating people what to do, in your life, because everybody is operating off their own trauma.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if I'm with somebody and I feel like, dang, he texting me too much, or he's a little bit too clingy, I don't know what his attachment style is. Right. Like, do I feel like I can't be loved? Or does he feel like I'm going to leave, so he all up on me? Right. Everybody operating off their own trauma. So it's just like, you have to look inward, figure out, what do I need? And then articulate your boundaries from there. And also, I just want to teach you how to love me, whether that's friends, whether that's coworkers. I want to be able to exist with you, and this is what works for me. And let's have a discussion about it. But if you cutting people off, Because
you cut. That's my biggest thing. Like, people cut so quick to like let someone out of their lives in the name of protecting their peace. I'm like, what is protecting your peace? Are you protecting your peace because you just don't know how to handle conflict? Do you
talk about it?
Do you lack the ability of conflict resolution?
Yeah.
And you call it protecting your peace?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know.
Well, let me take it one step further, right? You touched on a very important part that I just hear as being important in this process, and that's self-reflection, right? So it takes a lot to look in the mirror and say, I'm ugly.
What is wrong with you?
Said never. I'm a bad bitch.
Podcast poppy.
I'm weak.
Said never.
Bad bitch is, okay, we'll refer to you as such.
I'm a teen.
But I mean, to be able to, oh my goodness, to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be real, I want for everyone looking and comes across this, right? It's one thing to talk about it, but what is something that people can do to have their reflection match as accurately as possible as everyone else sees it? Because it's very distorted when you look in the mirror. It's almost like we're looking at a crazy mirror, a fun mirror. It's like what we want to see is what we're going to place in our mental and how we even see ourselves. So how do we get to that ultimate line of self-reflection so that we can even draw boundaries for the right reasons and get to that?
Right, because like a lot of the time, like you said, perception is reality, right? And oftentimes I feel like a lot of people they're trying to move healthily or move peacefully for themselves, and they're creating these boundaries, but if your perception of yourself is off, or you don't know why you even doing what you're doing, then you oftentimes you cutting people off that don't probably need to be cut off, or you're setting boundaries that aren't realistic, because you don't really know yourself.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting topic.
I'm interested, like, practically, right? So when you talk about self-reflection, like, what do you guys feel like people can do?
Well, for one, I'm an advocate for therapy, right? Because you can't look at yourself in an unbiased way. Right. Like, you can't be my client because we know each other from school. I can't help you without that bias. And so I feel like it's the same way when you're looking in the mirror. But I also feel like even before then, I think journaling is very important. If something, like, we have to start to normalize, like, when something is like, you're turning the wheels in your head and you can't figure out what it is, put it on paper, because your fingers move slower than your mind. So even if you don't know why you're feeling this way, even slowing down, like, your emotional, like, regulation, slowing down, even like your heart rate to figure out, okay, this is how I feel. I feel like that's a start, because even if you decide to go to therapy, now it's like, okay, these are the things that I notice about myself. I'm getting angry when this happens. I get sad when this happens. So for sure, journaling and therapy is what I can think of.
For sure. I also, like, I journal. I started journaling like 3 years ago, and I have literally years of journaling, and I look back and I look back, I probably say like every 3 months, and I'm just like, wow, all these situations and emotions and feelings that I was feeling, like, I can look back and see how I've like start to overcome it, and like I've worked through it, or I've addressed this issue, and that's really helped me to feel really empowered with myself and trust myself, because I think I think for me with my mental health, a lot of the times, like I wasn't trusting my feelings. Yes. I wasn't trusting like what I was experiencing. And when I look back at my journal, that really like affirms me and empowers me. And like, she's coming from the therapist perspective. I'm an advocate for meditation because I was recently on another podcast and I was talking about in yoga how we teach our students to like,
right. Podcaster.
Yeah, no. We teach our students like how to sit in different yoga postures that might feel like kind of uncomfy for them, but they're not hurting them, right? Like it's like you're growing here, you're stretching a little bit, it's uncomfortable, but like you can breathe through this, like you can sit with this. And I think with meditation, we learn you can sit with yourself and you can sit with your thoughts. Because for me, when I first started meditating, like I had never just like sat with my thoughts and let my thoughts just be my thoughts. Like I'm always trying to control it or move it or regulate it. But when I sit in meditation, like I'm sitting with my thoughts and my thoughts come and my thoughts and my feelings, they come and then they go, right?
Yeah.
And so like you have that moment to kind of reflect, but also realize that like none of this shit controls you or binds you, right? So like you define yourself every single day. Like on the other podcast, I was talking about like, I'm a multifaceted individual. I define myself differently every day and like I shape and move as time shapes and moves, you know what I mean? Yeah. So self-reflection, it looks different every day for me.
I want to piggyback off of what she said. So
we're finna get our own
literally,
we finna be y'all competitors.
The Melanin Poppin' Podcast.
Little did y'all know this was the perfect marriage, right? So what we were talking about earlier is mindfulness. And so what she's also talking about, meditation, is also like a mindfulness technique. So like from a therapist perspective, mindfulness is literally sitting with your emotions, acknowledging it and experiencing it. Just like when she talked about sitting in an uncomfortable pose, you're stretching, it doesn't feel good, but it's not gonna kill you. Yeah. And so I think that even ties back in just with the importance of Black mental health, because we don't feel, well, we don't know how to acknowledge our feelings. But also, it's just this sense of, I'm trying to figure out like how to articulate this. Yes. But basically, just with mindfulness, right? What's very important for me as a therapist is that my clients show up authentically, right? Because I feel like every part of you have to learn how to love. People teach you to run away from the depression, the anxiety, and I feel like healing has this definition of to not experience.
She's a runner, she's a track star.
Literally, a runner and a track star. But the thing about it is, what I find in healing is being able to be sad and be okay with being sad, right? Like that's a part of that authentic nature of yourself. Like, I'm not myself today.
All right.
I'm the only person that gotta wake up is Jayla, so you mind your business. Right. When it really come down to it, you know? And so like that's also what she's talking about with meditation, sitting with it. I don't feel good. And loving on that part of yourself, because she gonna come back up again.
Period. I love that.
Like it's not done. The depression or the anxiety or whatever it is, it's not the last time you will meet this person. So you should be able to look in the mirror, see exactly what it is, and love on it.
Right.
Give yourself some grace.
Yes, that's all it is.
Give yourself some.
I didn't wake up feeling like a bad bitch, and that's okay, because maybe tomorrow I will.
Because it's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. The rain is raining outside, you know.
Because it's a Wednesday. It's hump-day, and I'm
refrigerator empty,
I feel that. No, I feel that. So, like, I know we wrapping up right now. I wanna make sure that people know what you all are doing in this space, because there's a reason why we asked y'all to come here. We two dope individuals. Y'all clearly y'all got friends. y'all know what y'all talking about.
Right.
Y'all know what y'all talking about, but more importantly, I want people to know, okay, after this, right? After this episode, when they see this, okay, where can I go I want to know more about what they got going on.
Okay.
Speak on it.
Okay, so I wouldn't call it a non-for-profit. For right now, I call it like a community service platform called Advoco Collective. You can find us on Instagram at advaco.collective. And basically this platform, which I talked about earlier, intersection of mental health and community service. So my passion is to work with marginalized communities, but also marginalized communities. So my passion is Black and brown, incarcerated populations, homeless populations, perpetrators of domestic and sexual violence. These are the people no one wants to work with, right? But they look like us.
Untouchables.
They're in our families, you know? So that's where I am. And so also community service is super important to me. So a few months ago, we raised $1,400 for a homeless shelter in Atlanta, which I was so excited about. We were able to donate Pampers and bottles and anything baby related to these mothers. And so, yeah, keep up with me over there.
Because she is doing some great things. I won't lie to you.
Thank you.
Very much impressed.
All right. Okay. So follow up, because she's doing a lot. So you can definitely follow me. I already plugged myself because I'm a Leo. That's how I am.
That's why I love Leos. No, I'm a Cancer.
Look at okay.
I love Leos. It makes sense. Okay.
Astrology.
All of my girls are Leos. Okay. Do your thing.
Okay.
Yes.
But you can follow me over at Mel from STL_. I post like meditation videos, some stretches and stuff that you can do pretty easily from the comfort of your own home, because I'm all about making yoga, mindfulness, self-care resources is very accessible and very easy. But also I'm a co-founder of the collective STL. That's in St. Louis. So I know there's probably a lot of Chicago listeners, but there's probably a lot of St. Louis listeners too. That studio is still running. So it's donation-based, like I said, nonprofit, Black owned. And you can go there, pay whatever you want, take the yoga class. There's classes like damn near every day of the week. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm up to. And if you have a law job for me, you could do something for me.
Really, let's help each other. You know what I'm saying? So one piece though, because anytime you come on per my last,
here we go.
We gotta get behind the drip. I can't let y'all leave and not know what inspired today's ensembles. All right.
Okay.
So let's start with you, Melinda. Give us a little bit of behind the drip. Show us. Let me know how you come in. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna go from head
to toe, toe to head.
So these are Tory Burch. The purse is Tory Burch from their spring collection. This is Top Shop. This is Zara, and I got a little baby baguettes right here.
Yeah, she got the BB.
So yeah, my style's a little bit simpler, but yeah, just he told me to put that shit on, so this was my
I did indeed say
version of that. That's what he texted me literally. I said
I did indeed say put that shit on.
So
but I said please.
He did. Always a polite young man.
Jayla, let's hear, because I know you giving me like, you know what I'm saying, I'm a therapist, but I changed.
But I'm that girl.
Yeah,
that's what I was going for. So
I changed
therapist,
lives.
Student, but I'm still that girl any given day.
Period.
I don't really plug brands that are not Black owned, but I do like my shoes and I like my outfit. Bag by Brandon Blackwood, Black owned. Jewelry by Be More Dainty. Hair by my mama,
Love it.
Straight out the womb. Straight out the shop. But yes, that's it. That's it for me.
I love it. Hey, look, I'm gonna keep it real funky. You know what I'm saying? I got on ones. My Travis Scott. My Travis Scott was supposed to come in, but my shoe plug, he was a little hesitant with the delivery. So you know what I'm saying? I'm wearing the little Reeboks. You know what I'm saying? Got on some Zara officials.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Look, just in case y'all didn't know, y'all wasn't aware. That's that off-white. You know what I'm saying? I keep it on me. You know what I'm saying? I put that shit on. But the shirt is really the most important. DMX, RIP to a legend, someone who battled and struggled with mental health. I was like, I have to embody this some way. So I definitely wanted to throw on a DMX shirt, and then the jewelry's always gonna be here. So yeah.
I don't even want to go after you, bro. At this point, I'm gonna start going. Well, I don't have
You don't got that motherfucking tail on you, boy.
Yeah, just pretty simple. A black tee, ball main, AP on the wrist. You feel me? It's all in the details.
Yes.
Simplicity, but make statements with what we're doing.
Amen.
Some loafers. Keep it real casual.
I
Keep
love
it
that.
cute. And then on the wrist, I got this walking down the street. It literally says, excuses don't get it done.
Execution does. And what's the word of 2021?
Execution.
Amen.
So we're going to do this toast. A toast to
Ladies.
success and how you define it.
Yes.
You guys did a wonderful job
Yeah,
defining
cheers.
success.
Air touch.
But honestly, thank you so much for really opening the conversation of what this means. I mean, our community needs access to this, access to the conversation and breaking down those barriers that you guys mentioned. So toast to that, toast to
to
breaking
you all.
barriers.
Thank y'all for
Breaking
having
barriers.
us.
And of
We
course,
appreciate it.
cheers.
Thank you all. Cheers.
What you drink, yeah. Sapphire Bombay, only what you think, yeah. Looks like we'll be tied up for some weeks.